Hi guys, so today we're checking out the Deviate Off-Road Heat Dispersion Hood with vents, fitting all 2018 and newer JL Wrangler. So if you're looking for a hood that's going to completely transform the look and the function of the front end of your JL, this option by Deviate is going to be a great choice to take a look into. Now starting off with that styling, as you can tell, there is a large cowl in the middle of this hood. That's going to add a very dynamic and aggressive look to the front end of your JL, perfect if you're looking to completely switch up your styling. Now those vents on the side are also going to be incredibly functional. They're going to be helping out with heat dispersion, as it says in the name, which will be great if you are living in a hotter climate and you want your engine cooler, working more efficiently for a longer period of time, or you are the avid off-roader and spend a lot of time in your Jeep on the trail and you're at that lower RPM range and not moving a whole lot. That can cause a lot of heat soak, and having a hood like this is going to increase that performance when it comes to heat dispersion. Now this is going to have multiple vents on the cowl and on either side that are not only going to just be functional like I mentioned, but they're also going to look really cool as well and add to that dynamic look that this hood has going on. Now this hood is also going to accept all of the factory features, so you do get a factory feel out of this hood, and it is going to function exactly like the factory, especially with this fit that we have going on. I particularly would like to call that out. This has a very good fit for an aftermarket hood, so it is going to function like the factory hood, but again, you're getting all of those benefits that the factory hood was not able to give you, like the functionality of the vents and of course the aggressive styling that you're getting here with the cowl. I also would like to call out the fact that this is going to come in an unpainted finish right out of the box. It will be primed and prepped, ready to send over to paint. However, it is not going to be painted like the one that we have here. We painted this to color match our Wrangler to show you guys a better representation of how this is going to look up against your color code. So I would keep that in mind when you are shopping around for a hood. A lot of the options are unpainted, and this one will be as well. Now with that being said, this is going to come in at roughly $850, which is a pretty average price point for an aftermarket hood. In my personal opinion, I think that this is a high quality hood. It fits very nice. It transfers over all of those stock components, so you kind of get that factory feel and function out of the hood, but it's going to add a lot of functionality, a lot of heat dispersion, and it's also going to add that aggressive look. Now some other options on the page may not be set up as aggressively as this choice. Now obviously we're getting this cowl in the hood that's going to completely change the look. Some other options may not have a cowl. They may include vents, but they may not include as many vents as this does. So again, if you are looking for a lot of heat dispersion out of a hood, a very aggressive and dynamic look out of a hood, then this choice is going to be right up your alley. Now install is going to be a 2 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter. I would give it a lighter 2 out of 3. You're going to need a couple of basic hand tools, but you definitely will need somebody on hand to help you out with getting this on. However, fitting it is going to be pretty easy, and swapping over the components will be pretty easy as well. It's probably going to take you about an hour to get done in your driveway. So speaking of that install, let's jump into that now. The tools that I used for my install were an impact wrench, a T50 torque socket, a 10mm deep socket, a ratchet, a trim removal tool, and a breaker bar. So our first step to this is to unlatch our hood, and then we're going to go ahead and remove our hinges. Now we have a couple of things that we need to swap over, but we're going to do that while the hood is off to make it a little bit easier to do that. So what I'm going to do first is just unlatch each of our hood latches so that we have a little bit of free room for when we take the hood off. Now we're going to go ahead and go up to the latches in the back, or the hinges in the back, and using a T50 torque socket, I'm going to go ahead and remove those 2 bolts on either of the hinge. So I did have to use a breaker bar just to crack them free, just because these are painted and they are a little bit tighter than a lot of other bolts, considering that it's holding the hood down. Then we can just take the impact wrench and start to remove them. So you can do the same thing on the other side. So then you can separate the latch from the hood. This one has not been removed, so the paint is kind of stuck in place. I'm just gonna take a trim removal tool and try to break it free. So at this point, we just need to make sure the front part is unlatched. And when that is unlatched, we can kind of position it into a spot where we can take it off, and then we can grab an extra hand and completely remove our hood. So on the driver's side, before we take off the hood, I would be aware of the fact that you do have that windshield wiper fluid line here. All you really have to do is pinch this line at that joint and pull back on the hose that's attached to the hood. And then the hood will be fully disconnected, and we can grab a friend and remove our hood. So before we go ahead and swap over all of our factory components onto our new hood, I did want to stop down and tell you guys a little bit more about it, some of the similarities and the differences between the two, and why this option by Deviate is going to be a big step up from our factory hood. Now, starting off, as you can tell, our factory hood is going to be pretty simple. We're gonna have a small body line or a small raise in the middle. That's gonna give us some extra styling, but it's not going to be anything compared to this new option by DV8. Now, we're gonna have a large cowl in the middle, and yes, that is going to be there for some aggressive styling, creating a more aggressive and stand out aesthetic for the JL, but it's also going to be very functional as well. Now, this is gonna have vents on either side of the cowl, and we're gonna have vents on either side of the hood that will do a really good job at heat extraction. Now, a lot of the time, if you are in a hotter climate or you're really working your Wrangler, whether you're off-road or you're driving for long periods of time, heat soak can happen. And with this heat extraction and all of these vents around the hood, that's going to cool down the engine bay, keeping your engine running more efficiently for longer. So overall, this is going to be very functional in comparison to the factory hood that really doesn't have any venting at all. Now, this is also going to be made of a stamped steel construction, which will be a change from our factory hood, which is made of a fiberglass construction. So it is going to be a little bit heavier. However, it's going to provide some more benefits than our factory hood. So I think that that is a fair trade-off. Now, I would also like to mention that we have our hood painted to match our Wrangler behind me, but this is going to come in an unpainted finish. It is going to be prepped and primed, so you can take it right to the paint shop and color match it to your Wrangler. Now, what I also really like about this is that it comes with all of the necessary tie downs in order to swap over all of our factory components, which we're going to do in just a second, giving it a factory feel and a factory fit, and it's even going to come with under hood liners for better insulation. So overall, this is a solid option when choosing a hood. It's going to provide a lot of function and, of course, a lot of that styling. So what do you say we go ahead and swap over some of those components so we can get this installed on our JL? So starting with our factory hood flipped over, what I'm gonna do first is take off our factory hood insulator. Then we can access everything underneath and kind of swap over each part one by one. So I have a trim removal tool. This is just held in by pop clips. So I'm just gonna start by removing these one by one. Now, I would recommend that you have the hood on something that's not going to damage the paint or damage really anything on the hood. I have it on some foam core right now. I would recommend like a moving blanket or something just to protect that paint and make sure that there's no damage to the hood, both the factory one and your new DV8 one. So after they're all out, what you can do is just lift up on it, kind of untuck it from those little, we'll be able to access some of the stuff underneath. So at this point, what we can do is disconnect our washer fluid line. Now I'm going to take that trim removal tool or clip removal tool and just remove the line and the clips from the hood. We can untuck it from here and then we can disconnect. We can just pull back on this joint here, making sure not to damage the fitting. And we're going to be reusing this, so we're going to put this to the side. Then we have a couple of nuts here that we need to remove, and then we will have to squeeze these to push the actual windshield washer assembly through. So I'm going to take a 10mm socket and start removing those. And we're going to save all this hardware. Again, we have to swap this over. Now what we can do is just squeeze these two clips and push it through. We'll be able to kind of lift the hood up and remove it from the other side. Put this to the side, and we can do the same thing for the other one. Now we can take off either hood latch, so I'm going to take that 10mm socket again and take those two nuts off that are holding that latch on there. And we can do that on the other side as well. So what we're going to do next is remove this clip here. We have to transfer over this clip that holds our hood prop here. And then we're also going to swap over these two grommets. So first I'm going to start with this with my trim removal tool. Just kind of lift up on it, get underneath there, and then pop it out of place. We can do the same thing for our grommets. And then we can start removing our spring here, our latch, and then the actual hood prop. And then we should have everything off of our hood to move over to our new hood. So I'm gonna start with my 10mm socket, removing that spring. Now there's gonna be a little bracket down at the front of the spring, held in by one bolt. Once that bolt is off, we can unhook this and then remove that. Same thing with our latch, two 10mm bolts on either side. So I'll take that 10mm socket and remove those. That. And then for our hood prop, that's also two 10mm bolts. All right. Now everything is removed from our factory hood and we can start installing it on our new one. So at this point we can just repeat that process in reverse. I'm going to start with our hood latch and the prop here. making sure that it's oriented in the correct way. Pop that into place. We can take our latch. I'm gonna actually pop this into place while it's here. And take our 2 bolts, thread them in. Tightening them up with a 10mm socket. Now, since I have the grommets here, we can just pop these to where they need to be, which is the 2 outer holes, either side. We can grab our spring. There's gonna be a little cutout for that little hook there. So we can line that up, grab our 10mm bolt that we originally removed and tighten that down. And we can take our latch, making sure that it's oriented in the correct way. You really can't install it wrong because of that little clip on the side. So that's gonna hook in. And then we can take our 10mm bolts and again, thread those in and tighten them up. Right, now we can move over to our side hood latches. Now making sure that the hook part is facing down, because if we flip this over, it will be facing up. We're gonna take those 2 studs, line them up, push them through. Then we can take our 10mm socket again and tighten those up. And same for the other side. So for the windshield wiper fluid dispenser, or this little actuator here, what we're gonna do is just take these 2 pieces. We're not gonna use this full bump stop that is on the hood. So what we're gonna do is insert them, making sure that the little dispenser is facing the windshield, so it's facing the back of the hood, and that the fitting is also facing the back. So we're just going to slide these in and pop them through. And that little clip should hold them in place. Might be a little bit difficult to get them through at first. Then we can take the plastic or the rubber part of our fitting, slide that onto the back. And we can use these holes to secure them down. So on these little clips here, you will be able to open them up and adjust where they sit on the line itself. So I'm just gonna try to line this up with these holes in the hood here. Then clip that line down, make sure it's secure. Because this is gonna give us a little bit of excess in comparison to our factory hood, our factory tie downs, just because they were spaced out a little bit more. If you wanna go in and adjust this, you can trim part of this off. It's just a standard T-fitting. But there's a little clip, it like hooks into itself. So I'm just gonna adjust this to make sure that it is in one of the correct places. And we can secure that down. So at this point, what we can do is add our interior or under hood liner. So now we can install this liner. Now it is going to be attached by adhesive, so all we have to really do is pull back on this backing, get that out of the way, and we can lay it down on our hood. All right, so the one with the cutout, that's gonna go on the side with the prop. We're just gonna give it a good press. Then the one with no cutout, that's gonna go in the middle. The wider part's gonna go at the top, skinnier part's gonna go at the bottom. It's gonna follow the contour of the hood or the cowl. And the one over here is gonna have this cutout down at the bottom. And this is gonna contour around that hood prop mount. And then, once everything is stuck down and installed, now we can fit this on our JL. So at this point, with the help of a friend, we can go ahead and lay the hood in place. Make sure that it aligns at the front and the back. Then we can lay the hinges down and get them secured. What we can do now is flip our hinge down into place. And we're gonna have to kind of maneuver it around in order to get it lined up, but we can take our factory bolts and start to thread those in. Now I'm gonna hand thread them in on both sides, and then we're gonna tighten them down once both sides are actually in. And take that T50 Torx and get those started. We can do the same on the other side. So to make sure that the hood is positioned correctly, what I'm gonna do is kind of push this back a little bit, make sure that it's sitting up against there correctly. And then I'm actually gonna latch these hood latches down. That's gonna kind of just keep it in place while we tighten everything down. I'm gonna try to align it as best as we can. So this might be a little bit hard to tighten down as far as the thread is concerned, because once it's painted, sometimes the threads, if there's not a bolt in there, it gets paint on them, so it can be a little bit coarse. So I'm just gonna take that T50 Torx and that breaker bar that we used before and just slowly tighten those up. Making sure that it's in place. Those hood latches should keep it pretty much where it needs to be. And then once they're pretty much started off and threaded in most of the way, you can take an impact wrench if you'd like and tighten those up. So those are most of the way started. I'm going to move over to the impact wrench. We can do the same thing on the other side. All right, so before we go ahead and put on our side vents, what we need to do is reconnect that line over there for our washer fluid so we can use our prop that we installed, prop that up, come over to the driver's side, and we can plug in our washer fluid line, make sure that that clips. Now we can close up our hood and attach our side vent covers. So these vent covers are going to attach over on this side here. That's going to give it a little bit of an accent and clean up the look. They are attached by 3M tape, so I'm just going to pull off this backing. It is automotive grade, so it will stay on for a long period of time. Also, I would recommend, I've already cleaned this area, but I would just take a alcohol wipe if you have it, or just some soapy water and make sure that there's no dust or dirt on here that would mess with the adhesion process of the 3M. We can center this, and there we go. I recommend to give it a good press for about 30 seconds. Then we can repeat that on the other side. So after the side vent covers are installed, then you're all set to go. So that's going to wrap it up for my review and install. Make sure you like and subscribe. And for more videos and products just like this, always keep it right here at extremeterrain.com.